I stared at my phone, trembling as I read Emma's text. Mom, please don't come to Christmas. Marcus's family is very particular about appearances. 20 years of double shifts, bloody scrubs, and sleepless nights flashed before my eyes. What my daughter didn't know was that I could have bought her fiancé's entire family's law firm with a single phone call. But maybe it was time she learned exactly who she was trying to hide. My name is Linda Smith, and at 48 years old, I thought I knew what exhaustion felt like. 16 hours at Metropolitan General Hospital will teach you things about the human body that medical textbooks never mention. Like how your feet can actually go numb while still somehow managing to throb with every heartbeat, or how you can change bloody bandages for hours and still smile when the next patient needs comfort. Walking into my apartment that December evening, I kicked off my nursing shoes and felt my toes scream in relief. The furniture wasn't much to look at. Secondhand couch, dining table with a wobbly leg I kept meaning to fix. But everything was clean. I'd learned long ago that cleanliness costs nothing but effort. And effort was something I had plenty of. The walls told Emma's story better than any photo album. Her high school graduation picture hung next to her college acceptance letter. Her Dean's List certificates from undergrad. That newspaper clipping from when she volunteered at the legal aid clinic. 23 years old and already in law school. Makes a mother proud, right? My phone buzzed against the kitchen counter where I'd left it charging. Emma's name lit up the screen, and I grabbed it faster than I should have. We'd been playing phone tag for weeks. Law school was keeping her busy. And she'd mentioned this new boyfriend Marcus more and more lately. Young love has a way of consuming everything else, but I figured she'd call when she could. Her text was short. Can we talk tomorrow about Christmas plans? Well, that was new. Emma usually had Christmas planned by Halloween. She loved the holidays more than anyone I knew, always insisting we put up decorations the day after Thanksgiving despite our tiny apartment. But maybe Marcus had changed her routine. New relationships do that to people. I heated up leftover soup and settled into my usual spot on the couch, surrounded by medical journals I'd brought home to read. Staying current in nursing means studying even after your shift ends. The hospital had been talking about promoting me to charge nurse, which meant more responsibility, but also more money. Money I'd been saving for Emma's graduation gift. The next evening, Emma called while I was organizing my work schedule. Her voice sounded different somehow, more careful, like she was choosing each word before saying it. She mentioned studying for finals, complained about a difficult professor, normal student stuff. Then Marcus came up. His family has this incredible house, she said, and I could hear something new in her tone. They have original artwork and this library with first edition books. Marcus says his dad's been collecting them for years. I made the appropriate impressed sounds, while wondering where this was heading. Emma had always appreciated nice things, but she'd never focused on them before. Growing up, we'd spent plenty of Saturdays at the library, and she'd been just as excited about the worn paperbacks as any collector's edition. The thing is, Mom, Emma continued, and my maternal instincts perked up at her hesitant tone. They're having this big Christmas celebration. Very formal, very traditional. Marcus thinks maybe... She trailed off, leaving me hanging in that awful silence parents know too well. The kind of silence that comes before news you don't want to hear. Maybe what, sweetheart? Maybe it would be better if you didn't come this year, just until I get more established with them, you know? They're very particular about their Christmas traditions, and I don't want to complicate things. The words hit me like a patient's unexpected cardiac arrest, sudden, shocking, and requiring immediate attention. But unlike at the hospital, I had no training for this emergency. What Emma didn't know was that I understood those particular Christmas traditions better than she could imagine. And maybe it was finally time she learned exactly who she was trying to hide from them. The formal invitation arrived 3 days later. Thick cardstock paper, the kind that cost more than my monthly coffee budget. Gold embossing spelled out the Whitmore family cordially invites you to their annual Christmas celebration. Funny thing was, Emma had just told me they weren't doing anything special this year. My hands shook as I dialed Emma's number. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. Mom? What's up? I'm actually studying with Marcus right now. I got an invitation in the mail. From the Whitmore family for Christmas dinner. Dead silence. Then I heard her excuse herself. Footsteps, A door closing. Listen, that's just a standard thing they send out. You don't actually have to come. I told you it's complicated this year. Something cold settled in my stomach. The same feeling I got when a patient's vitals didn't match their symptoms. Something was very wrong here. Emma, what exactly did you tell them about me? More silence. Then, nothing bad, Mom. I kept it simple. They're very successful people, and I didn't want to overwhelm them with details. Details, like I was some embarrassing footnote in her life story. What kind of details, sweetheart? Her voice got smaller. You know, about your job, about our apartment. They wouldn't understand why someone chooses to work in a hospital when there are other options. Other options, right? What Emma didn't know was that I'd had every option in the world 25 years ago, including the option to never work a day in my life. Emma, are you ashamed of me? No, God, Mom, don't be dramatic. I just think it's better if we keep things separate for now. Marcus's family is very educated, very refined. They talk about art and politics and investments. You talk about hospital stuff. Hospital stuff. Like saving lives was somehow less important than discussing stock portfolios over expensive wine. But wait, it gets worse. The thing is, Mom, Marcus's parents are hosting this big Christmas dinner, black tie event, and I just don't think you'd be comfortable with that crowd. You know how you get anxious in fancy situations. When exactly had I ever gotten anxious in fancy situations? Emma had never seen me in a fancy situation to know how I'd react, but her assumption stung worse than any needle I'd ever taken blood with. So you want me to spend Christmas alone? Just this once. When things are more established with Marcus, maybe next year we can figure something out. But right now, I need to focus on fitting in with his world. His world? Not our world. His world. I hung up the phone and stared at my refrigerator. Emma's acceptance letter to State University hung there, yellow with age, full scholarship. She'd turned it down to attend Marcus's prestigious private university instead. The one that cost $50,000 a year. The one I'd co-signed loans for because I wanted her to have choices. Choices I'd apparently made poorly, according to her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in months. I scrolled through Emma's social media accounts. Photos I'd never seen before filled my screen. Emma at fancy restaurants, wearing clothes I'd never bought her. Designer outfits that cost more than my monthly rent. One photo caught my attention. Emma and Marcus at some charity gala, her in a dress that probably cost more than my car. The caption read, "So grateful for family money that lets us support causes we care about. Family money." What family money? I kept scrolling. More photos, more expensive outfits, more references to things Emma had never mentioned to me. A ski trip to Aspen, weekend in the Hamptons, gallery openings and wine tastings and country club events. Emma had been living a completely different life. One that apparently didn't include her embarrassing nurse mother who worked double shifts to pay for her education. Then I saw the comment that made my blood run cold. Under a photo of Emma and Marcus at some fancy dinner, someone had written, "You two look perfect together, both from such successful families." Emma had replied, "Thank you, we're so lucky to have the backgrounds we do." Backgrounds we do, plural, like she came from money too. My daughter had been lying, not just to Marcus's family, but to Marcus himself. She'd created an entirely fictional version of her childhood, one where I apparently didn't exist as the single mother who'd sacrificed everything to give her opportunities. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going to work, I drove to my bank and opened my safety deposit box. Inside were documents I hadn't touched in over 2 decades. My original birth certificate, not Linda Smith, Linda Catherine Ashworth, the Ashworth family. You might know the name from hospital wings and university buildings. Old money, the kind that comes with expectations and obligations and trust funds that grow larger every year whether you want them to or not. I'd walked away from $15 million when Emma was born. Walked away from a family who demanded I choose between their reputation and my unplanned pregnancy. They'd made it clear, abort the baby and maintain my trust fund or lose everything and never contact them again. I chose Emma. Every single time, I chose Emma. The trust fund statements showed the account had grown to over $18 million. Money that had been sitting there, waiting, while I worked 16-hour shifts and clipped coupons and worried about making rent. Money I'd never touched because I wanted Emma to understand the value of honest work. The dignity that comes from earning your place in the world instead of inheriting it. But apparently, my daughter preferred the fantasy of inherited wealth to the reality of earned respect. I made 3 phone calls that day. First, to my family's law firm, requesting immediate removal of my co-signature from Emma's student loans. Second, to Emma's university financial aid office, scheduling a meeting about her account status. Third, to the hospital, letting them know I'd be working Christmas Eve after all. Some families gather around expensive dinner tables on Christmas. Others gather around hospital beds, grateful for every moment they get together. Emma was about to learn which kind of family she actually came from. But first, she was going to learn exactly who she'd been so eager to hide, and what that choice was going to cost her. The phone call I'd been expecting came 3 days before Christmas. Emma's panicked voice filled my kitchen as I calmly prepared my coffee before the morning shift. "Mom, what did you do? The university called and said my loans are in default. They're demanding immediate payment or I can't register for spring semester." Emma's voice cracked through the phone like breaking glass. I stirred my coffee slowly, watching the steam rise while she panicked on the other end. "Well, sweetheart, you said I was too embarrassing to be around Marcus's family. I figured someone from such a refined background wouldn't want their mother co-signing their student loans either." The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then came the stammering. I never said, Mom. This is my education we're talking about. Your education that you're paying $50,000 a year for instead of taking the full scholarship to state. Your education that I've been guaranteeing with my signature while you tell people you come from family money." Another long pause. The kind that happens when someone realizes they've been caught. "How did you—" "Social media is fascinating, Emma. All those photos of you at charity galas, talking about your lucky family background. Funny thing is, I don't remember raising you in the Hamptons." I could hear her breathing getting faster. Panic mode was setting in. "Look, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But right now you need to figure out how to pay $37,000 by January 15th, or you're taking a gap semester." Emma's voice got smaller, like when she was little and knew she was in trouble. "Mom, you know I can't afford that. My part-time job barely covers my apartment." "Right. The apartment I'd been helping with rent on. The one where she hosted Marcus without ever mentioning her mother worked double shifts to keep her there." "That's unfortunate," I said, checking my watch. "But I'm sure Marcus's family can help. They seem to have all that family money you've been bragging about. It's not like that. They're not just going to pay for my school." Strange. I thought refined, educated families took care of each other. At least that's what this embarrassing nurse mother always believed. Emma started crying then. Real tears. Not the manipulative kind she'd tried as a teenager when she wanted something. These sounded like the moment reality crashes into fantasy and leaves you bleeding on the pavement. "Mom, please? I made a mistake, okay? I was trying to fit in with Marcus's world, and I got carried away. But you can't destroy my future over this." The irony wasn't lost on me. Emma thought I was the one destroying her future. "Sweetheart, let me tell you something about family money." I pulled out the trust fund statement I'd been carrying in my purse for 3 days. "I could write a check right now for your entire education. I could buy Marcus's father's law firm and turn it into a coffee shop." She went quiet again, the skeptical kind of quiet. "I'm texting you a photo. Take a look." I sent her the bank statement showing an account balance of $18,547,92. My phone buzzed immediately. What is this?" "That's my trust fund, Emma. The one I walked away from when I was 25 and pregnant with you. The Ashworth family money that's been sitting there growing while I worked nights and weekends to teach you that character matters more than cash." The silence on the other end felt different now, heavier, like the weight of 23 years of assumptions crashing down at once. You're telling me we could have been rich this whole time?" "We were rich, Emma, just not in the way you thought mattered." She hung up without saying goodbye. 3 days later, Christmas morning, someone knocked on my apartment door. I'd just gotten home from my holiday shift at the hospital, still wearing scrubs that smelled like antiseptic and hope. Emma stood in my hallway, mascara streaked down her cheeks. wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. But here's the thing about rock bottom. It's where you finally learn what foundation actually means. Emma, I stepped back to let her in. You look like you've had a rough Christmas. She collapsed onto my secondhand couch, the same one she'd been embarrassed for Marcus to see during their video calls. Her designer dress looked ridiculous in my modest living room, like costume jewelry in a toolbox. They knew, she whispered. Marcus's family knew I was lying the whole time. I sat down across from her, still in my scrubs. How? His mother did a background check on me. Can you believe that? She hired an investigator. Emma laughed bitterly. Turns out they do that for all potential daughters-in-law. Very thorough people. Of course they did. Old money families always protect themselves. I'd grown up watching that game. She confronted me at dinner, in front of everyone, asked detailed questions about our family estate and which prep school I attended. When I couldn't answer, she suggested I must be confused about my own background. Emma wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing expensive makeup. Marcus just sat there, didn't defend me, didn't even look at me. His mother said people who lie about their breeding usually lie about other things too. Breeding, like we were show dogs instead of human beings. Then she asked if my mother really worked in a hospital, or if that was another fabrication. She said it so nicely, Mom, with this perfect smile, like she was asking about the weather. I handed Emma a tissue from the box I kept on my coffee table. Hospital tissue, the cheap kind that scratches your nose, but gets the job done. What did you tell her? The truth? Finally, Emma's voice cracked. I told her you worked double shifts to pay for my education, that you raised me alone and never complained about being tired, that you're the strongest person I know. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. His mother said that was very admirable, but Marcus deserved someone from his own social circle, someone who understood their expectations. I felt that familiar protective anger rise in my chest. Nobody talks about my daughter that way. Even if she'd been ashamed of me, she was still mine. Marcus walked me to the door after dessert, said maybe we should take a break until I figured out who I really wanted to be. Emma curled up on my couch like she used to during thunderstorms when she was little. I know who I want to be, Mom. I want to be someone worthy of the mother who gave up $18 million to teach me right from wrong. I smiled and pulled a blanket over her shoulders. Well then, I guess we better get you enrolled in some classes.